Okay. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. We are from group 2. We want to present our materials about grammar and style. First, let me introduce our members. First, Vanessa Ataya, me as the moderator and the second speaker. Second, Indra Prayuda as the second speaker. Hello, Indra.
Hello.
And then there's Mutiara Lutfianti as the third speaker. Hello, Mut. And last, Wahyu Abdillah as the last speaker. Here.
Hi.
Now, the first speaker, Indra Prayuda, will begin to read the first slide. Indra, time is yours.
Thank you. So I'm Indra Prayuda. I'm going to explain my material. The first one is about grammar and style. Grammar is the hugely complex set of interlocking categories, units, and structures. In effect, the rules of that language itself. This makes grammar somewhat of an intimidating area of analysis for the beginning stylistician. We will use these units to try to develop some useful building blocks for study of grammar and style. The remainder of this thread examines patterns of grammar in a variety of literary texts. Next is the basic model of grammar. Most theories of grammar accept that grammatical units are ordered hierarchically according to their size. This hierarchy is known as a rank scale. As the arrangement below suggests, the rank scale sorts units in a context of relationship, progressing from the largest down to the smallest. So from the largest down is sentence or clause complex, and then clause, move down we go to praise, and then move down we go word, and the last is morpheme. And for our purpose, we can distinguish four basic elements of clause structure. These are the subject, we call it as S, the predicator as P, and the complement C, and the adjunction as A. Here are some examples of clauses which display an CPCA pattern. The first is subject, the women, and then predicator feed, the verb, then complement, those pigeons, and adjunction regularly. So the women feed those pigeons regularly. And then move the second sentence. Our bull terrier was washing the postman yesterday. Our bull terrier, it's a pronoun. Our bull terrier is subject, then predicator was washing, and then complement the postman and adjunct yesterday. And then the professor of necromancy would wear lipstick every Friday. The subject is the professor of necromancy, predicator is would wear, complement is lipstick, and adjunct every Friday. And then the Aussie actress looked great in her latest film. The Aussie actress as subject looked, the verb as predicator, its past tense, and then complement, great, and adjunct in her last film. And then the last, the man who came for dinner, we use the relative clause of who came, it refers to the man, then predicator was, complement, pretty miserable, and adjunct throughout the evening. The man who came for dinner was pretty miserable throughout the evening. So this is the CPCA pattern that we use. I think that's from me. Thank you. Back to the moderator.
Okay, thank you, Indra, for your explanation. Next slide. I will read the next slide. Indra, please slide berikutnya. Okay, test is for clause constituents. We can test for the subject, complement, and adjunct elements of clause structure by asking various questions around the verb, assuming, of course, that we can bind the verb. Here is a list of useful tests for sorting out clause structure. First, finding the subject. It should answer the question who or what placed in front of the verb. Finding the complement. It should answer the question who or what placed after the verb. And then last, finding the adjunct. It should answer the question such as how, when, where, or why placed after the verb. Next slide, Indra. Variations in basic clause structure. Most of the examples provided so far exhibit a basic SPCA pattern of clause structure, but it is important to note that this configuration represents only one of a number of possible combinations. Other types of grammatical mood, for example, involve different types of causal patterning. A case in point is the imperative, which is the form typically used for requests and commands. Quite how clause structure and other types of grammatical patterning function as markers of styles will be the focus of attention across the remainder of this trend, and indeed for part of Unit C4 also. Next up in this introductory section of the book is the topic of sound and rhythm as it intersects with style in language. The following unit introduces therefore some key concepts used by stylisticians in their investigation of phonology and metrical patterning. Next slide, Indra. Sentence type. There are three types of sentence. The first sentence is the most simple type of sentence structure, where the sentence comprises just one independent clause. Here are two sentences, each containing a single clause apiece. First, he ate his supper, and the second sentence is he went to bed. Next is compound sentence. The term compound sentence is used to describe structure which have more than one clause in them, and where these clauses are of equal grammatical status. Compound sentences are built up through the technique of coordination, and they rely on a fixed set of coordinating conjunctions like and, or, but, so, for, and yet. Each of examples 2 until 4 are single compound sentences which contain within them two coordinated clauses. Second sentence, he ate his supper and he went to bed. The third sentence, he ate his supper, so he went to bed. Fourth, he ate his supper, but he went to bed shortly after. I think that's all from me. Next, the material will be presented by Wahyu. I mean by Mutiara. Mutiara, time is yours.
Okay, thank you, Nessa. The next slide, please. The third types is complex sentences involve two possible structural configurations, but their main informing principle is that the clauses they contain are in an asymmetrical relationship to one another. The first configurations involve subordination, where the subordinate clause is appended to a main clause. To form this pattern, subordinating conjunctions are used, and these include when, although, if, because, and since. As further variations on the sample sentences used so far, consider the following examples, which are all two-clause complex sentences. The fifth sentence is, when he had eaten his supper, he went to bed. The next sentence, having eaten his supper, he went to bed. And the last sentence, although he had just eaten his supper, he went to bed. Next slide, please. Tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrow creeps in this petty pace from day to day. From Macbeth, volume 5, page 19 to 20. Here, the three occurrences of the temporal adverb tomorrow are tied together with the coordinating conjunctions and to form an adjunct. As the play draws to its conclusion, the grim inevitability of its denouement is signaled in this sequence of repetition, delivered here with an almost labored monotony. The, inex the, the inexorability of the passage of time is picked up again at the end of the sequence with the repetition of another temporal adverb in the adjunct, day to day, day to day. This grammatical structure works to create temporal bookends around the main predicator creeps in and subject these petty pace elements. Next slide. Indra. Trailing constituents and anticipatory constituents. This petty pace creeps in from day to day, tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrow. This point leads to another issue about grammatical patterning, which concerns the positioning of various elements of clause structure in a particular text. Imagine the subject, predicator, and complement elements of a main clause as the hub around which satellite structures. Principally, adjuncts and subordinate clauses can be placed. In the Shakespeare example, adjuncts are placed on either side of the hub. In such situations, where the weighting of elements on either side of a subject and predicator is balanced. We use the term equivalent constituents to explain this stylistic technique. I think that's all from me. Back to moderator.
Okay, thank you, Mutiara, for your explanation. Now we are going to have Wahyu to read our next material. Wahyu, go on.
Okay, and it's all about trailing constituents and anticipatory constituents. Illustrating grammar in action, Dickens' famous folk. In developing a model of grammar, short illustrations from literary texts have been used to illustrate each of the various categories introduced. In order to show how a range of devices of grammar can work simultaneously in a text. To close this unit, it will be useful to bifocus on a slightly longer passage, using paragraph of Charles Dickens' novel Bleak House that will reproduce with sentences being numbered for convenience. So here is the text. Fog everywhere. Fog up the river, where it flows among green hedges and meadows. Fog down the river, where it rolls defiled among the tires of shipping and the waterside pollution of a great and dirty city. Fog on the Essex marshes. Fog on the Kentish heights. Fog creeping into the cabooses of collier brakes. Fog lying out on the yards and hovering in the rigging of great ships. Fog drooping on the gunwales of barges and small boats. Fog in the eyes and throats of ancient Greenwich pensioners whizzing by the firesides of their wards. Fog in the stem and bowl of the afternoon pipe of the wrathful skipper down in his close cabin. Fog really pinching the toes and fingers of his shivering little apprentice boy on deck. Change people on the bridges peeping over the parapets into another sky of fog, with fog all around them, as if they were up in a balloon and hanging in the misty clouds. Dickens, 1986. Next slide. From the passage above, there are 5 analyzing of grammatical patterns. The first one is a key stylistic feature is the way the central noun fog is elaborated, or perhaps more accurately unelaborated, throughout the passage. The central noun emerges as stark, undifferentiated, and literally undetermined. Its characterless quality is reinforced by comparison in that many other nouns in the passage receive precisely the sort of grammatical modification. For example, green age and waterside pollutions. And the second feature is the passage "Fog Creeping into the Cabooses of Collier Briggs" by Charles Dickens is one of the most striking examples of literary editing in action. In the opening sentences, the predicator element has been ellipsed completely, and this takes with it all sense of verbal process. A key element known as the finite is often expressed by auxiliary verbs, and it serves to provide, among other things, tense, polarity, and grammatical agreement with the subject. By offering only the main verbal component in lying, creeping, and pinching, Dickens effectively splits the predicator in two so that we get a sense of ongoing process, but no indication of tense, wind aids, and waterside pollutions. Next. Next slide, please. The third feature is that narrative rich in detail but low in detail about time. The passage abound in the passage abound in trailing consequence, grammatical build-up.
Nggak bisa nih dok, sumpah nggak bisa.
Masa ini?
Indra. Ayolah, udah bagus semua ini. Weh.
Bisa dihituin aja
Iya,
nggak sih?
sambung aja, ntar recrop. Ngomong aja kau feature 3 ini. Kok ikut ketawa sih?
Kau ketawa juga anjing.
Ya kan aku udah tunduk, kok ikut. Udah coba ngomong cepat.
The third feature is narrative rich in detail but low in detail about time. The passage abounds in trailing consequence, grammatical build-up takes place towards the right of the main predicator position. These clauses contain numerous subordinate clauses and adjuncts of location. The fourth feature, there is a gradual narrowing of spatial focus as the passage progresses. In experiential terms, the processes associated with fog are initially intransitive in that they don't impact upon a goal. However, just as the overall spatial focus narrows, so the transitivity pattern shifts to a goal-directed one. And the last feature is, in this passage, Dickens shows how a pattern built through parallelism and repetition can ultimately be turned on its head. The fifth stylistic feature illustrates well the fluid and dynamic properties of foregrounding. The final sentence of the passage offers a good illustration of internal foregrounding. Next slide, please. And here is the summary of our presentation. Style comes from the totality of interrelated elements of language rather than from individual features in isolation. A useful way of dealing with this problem is to make up some sentences that you feel would be at odds with the stylistic techniques used in the passage under examination. This exercise used extensively in a number of other units. help tease out through contrast the features that are in the text. I think that's all from me. Back to moderator.
Okay, thank you, Wahyu, for explanation. Thank you to Indra and Mutiara also. So I think that's all from our group. We are sorry if we made any mistakes, and if you guys have suggestion, comments, or maybe questions, you may leave it on the discussion forum. Thank you from us, and thank you for your attention. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Stop recordingnya.